Kata for the sound of the bell. Mind calm, body at ease, breathing quiet, sentiment benevolent. Dharma friends, sitting still in vital silence, wanting nothing, we practice eco-Buddhism together. The sound of the temple bell booms for all to cease from conflict. May the way of Buddha usher in the dawn of non-violent global village forever. Here is the after sound of the bell. Thunder of silence, light after Dharma rain. Om Amoga Vairakana Maha Mudra Manipama Javala Pravataya.
Please take a moment to straighten your mats and cushions and then stand facing the altar for the chanting of the 3 refuges. Bringing our hands palm to palm, gesture of sincere heart. We will first take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha in Sino-Korean. So just throw your voice in with the chant, even if you do not know the words. And then we'll do it a second time, spoken in English. Chi, chim, quim yang, ne, shi, bang, sam, se, che, mang, cha, e, sang, chu, il, che, Shim Quim Yang Ne Shimang Sam Se Che Mang Cha He Sang Chu Il Che Da Maya Chim Quim Yang Ne Shimang Sam Se Che Mang Cha He San Chu Il Che Sang Kaya Aju. I go for refuge to the Buddha.
I go for refuge to the Buddha.
And resolve with all beings.
And resolve with all beings.
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment.
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment.
And realize the great way.
And realize the great way.
I go for refuge to the Dharma.
I go for refuge to the Dharma.
And resolve with all beings.
And resolve with all beings.
I will penetrate the teachings.
I will penetrate the teachings.
And uncover oceans of wisdom.
And uncover oceans of wisdom.
I go for refuge to the Sangha.
I go for refuge to the Sangha.
And resolve with all beings.
And resolve with all beings.
I will seek peace and happiness for the many.
I will seek peace and happiness for the many.
And transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
And transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
Now, please remain standing just for another moment longer while I read our ancestor dedication. On this 15th day of February, 2026, we acknowledge that this land where our temple buildings stand has been the home of Native peoples, the Potawatomi, the Odawa, and the Ojibwe, the Council of the Three Fire Tribes, and also of Black Americans. We know that this neighborhood used to be a historically Black neighborhood during times of sanctioned racial segregation and oppression. For our own awakening and for the awakening of all life, may the benevolent energies of our meditation, chanting, and full presence here at the service this morning extend to all beings on this planet and throughout time and space. May there be deepening of our interbeing. May peace prevail and war cease. Making 3 bows. And now please return to your places for another shorter period of meditation, about 5 minutes or so. Please join me in some simple stretching as we end our meditation. Drip, drip, drip. If you want to know what's underneath the snow, first you have to melt the ice. Good morning on the day of the big thaw, February 15th, apparently. I think this is fool's spring in Michigan weather. I'm sure it will get cold again. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jagwa. I'm one of the Dharma teachers here in Ann Arbor. We have a big group today. Are any of you here for the first time? Oh, okay. A few of you. Yeah. Well, welcome. Our guiding teacher, Haju Sunam, is, I think, still in New York at the farm, yes?
She's on her way.
She's on her way back, yeah. She has requested of me kind of a little bit of an annual tradition each year around this time of Valentine's Day, which of course was yesterday, to give a talk about love and about practicing in the context of romantic relationships. And I always invite a special guest to help me with this talk. So, Jagak, would you like to come up? Yeah, you. Do you want a cushion? You're good? Okay.
Now it's on.
Would you like to introduce yourself and say how we know each other?
Hi, I'm Jagak, and Jagwa and I have been married for 16 years as of New Year's Eve.
That's right. And he is a very good sport about getting roped into this now for maybe like the 4th year in a row. I think that we've done a talk about this. So I don't actually know all the things you're going to say, so this will be interesting. I wanted to frame the conversation. We've talked in the past of some of the years that we've done this about Buddhist conceptions of love. You might have heard of the 4 Brahma Viharas, which are sort of the 4 types of love that Buddhism defines. I wanted to do something a little bit different this year and talk about the ways in which a romantic relationship could be a container for practice, and maybe why that's a little bit of a different model of thinking about romantic relationships than mainstream culture might sort of generally convey to us. So I went back and I actually looked up our wedding ceremony script that we wrote, because we had written to a Buddhist teacher who's out in California, Gil Fronsdal, still a big fan of his, and he puts a lot of his talks online that you can listen to for free. And we had been listening to a lot of his talks when we were first starting to date. And he was very kind enough to send us a short passage to read at our ceremony. And there's a section here that I pulled out that I think is relevant for the theme. So he says, a mindful marriage is understood to be an ongoing practice. It is a practice of a lifetime. Marriage is a wonderful container in which a couple can support each other to be aware, present, and living from their deepest intention and deepest good. So maybe just right away in that little bit of a sort of a maybe Buddhist definition that he gives, we hear a contrast with what we might understand a romantic relationship to represent in kind of a mainstream culture kind of way. So I wrote here in my notes, mainstream culture emphasizes gratification in our romantic relationships or pursuit of them, even perhaps an expectation that our partner will give us something that we do not yet know how to give ourselves: stability, self-worth, and acceptance. So I wanted to kind of take up this question then of how is a romantic relationship perhaps understood or practiced as an opportunity for both people to support each other's growth as individuals, their ability to come to a greater sense of moral character and be in service to their community. And so in Buddhism, when we think about how do we sort of tune our tuning fork, if you will, we think about the precepts. And we're going to be starting a new class of precept study just in a couple of weeks, actually. And after the service today, there'll be an informational session if you are curious about what it means to take the precepts, which is sort of the formal commitment and study of the Buddhist path. And we, in that class, study eight precepts. We're just going to talk about the first 4 today because we don't have quite as much time as it would take to do all 8. But we can think about precepts as sort of moral and ethical guidelines, but not commandments. So on the surface of them, they seem a bit straightforward, but as you work with them, they become much more nuanced, much more contextual. And I think it's important to understand that precepts are really only practiced and understood through relationship with ourselves, relationship with our community, maybe relationship with our partner, whether or not they are also practicing in this way. And sort of embedded in each of the precepts that you will hear is this notion of cause and effect. Because of that, there is this. When I behave in this way, this is the outcome. Perhaps I am contributing to an increase in suffering in my life or the life of other people around me, or perhaps I am increasing like my skillfulness in how I relate to my life and the people around me. So we're going to do a little bit of a back and forth conversation about the first 4 precepts, which, as I said, all of the precepts are quite relational, but I think the first 4 in particular are quite pertinent to interpersonal relationships, romantic or otherwise, but we'll be talking a little bit more from our experience of being married for 16 years, which is hard to believe. Okay, the first precept is often the sort of shortest version of it, and which all the other precepts really kind of spring from. Do not harm, but cherish all life. Okay. So I think if I were to put in my own words what I think this precept is kind of pointing us to, I think it's about recognizing sort of no separation between ourselves and others, nurturing our reverence for all life and for our own human life, this opportunity to deeply kind of learn about ourselves and learn about the world. I think in particular, in the context of a relationship, this is one where we have a pretty huge opportunity and maybe a very challenging opportunity to see the ways in which we become enmeshed with other person, we maintain a sense of separateness. That question of self and other is so bound up in romantic relationship. What's me and mine? What is our relationship? What is this organism of the relationship that you are kind of creating together? And then I thought I would talk a little bit about for each one kind of like the pitfalls, and then I'm curious what you'll say about this. Pitfalls of practicing with this in a relationship, I think, are things like treating our partner as a fixed object, not cherishing or noticing the ways in which they and we are always changing and are not sort of cast in our personal story to play a certain role. For example, maybe I have a desire to prioritize stability in my life. Maybe my partner comes to me and says, I'm really unhappy in my job and I would like to make a major change. Right? So that brings up the question of how can we cherish the desire and the sort of always changing kind of aspects of our partner. I think when we're practicing in this precept, there's a more playful give and take between me and you and us, and sort of like that three-part aspect of a relationship. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, in thinking about this precept and what it means in the context of a relationship, I was reminded of another story that was one of my favorites from Gil Fronsdal, the teacher that Jagwa mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And in this story, this sort of very busy, very wealthy, worldly man goes to this Buddhist teacher and says, I'm in a hurry. I don't have a lot of time. Let's just cut to the chase. Like, give me this, what's at the heart of Buddhism? I want to know, just like boil it down, pull back the curtain. What's it all about? And, this teacher, he gets it, and he, gets out his brush and his ink, and he writes down on this piece of paper for this man, hands it back, and it says, attention. And so the guy's like, no. Like, I want like the real deal secret, you've been doing this for a long, long time. Like, what's it all about? And he says, okay, I get it now. And he goes back and gets another piece of paper. And this time it says, attention. And this happens again, of course, because in storytelling, everything happens in threes. And so attention. And I think in order to practice with this idea of not harming and cherishing life, like, you have to pay attention, as Jagwa was saying, to yourself and your own habits and what's coming up in any given moment. And also to your partner, and then seeing them as that separate individual, maybe different than what you have in your mind of them, but they are sort of this external autonomous being. After 16 years, it can be, easy to lose sight of sometimes, but then also paying attention to that third thing, this collaborative unit, and not continue to maintain that effort of attention.
Did you had some practical examples you wanted to talk about, I think, with this one? Like having dinner at the...
Yeah. So one of the things that
We did talk about this part a little bit.
we did.
Okay.
So one of the things, the ways in which we had noticed, sort of through I don't know if you guys also feel like the post-pandemic years have kind of been a little bit of a time warp, but that our attention had been continuing to erode and divide in various ways. And we spent a lot of nights, we would just make dinner and eat our dinner watching, something on TV. And so we have made a new commitment within the last few months, I would say, to eating dinner at the table together with no screens and no devices. And just, it's an opportunity throughout the day to sort of check in, even though we are sort of cellmates in this small, we both work from home. And so we have a small apartment size home and we see each other a lot, but it's a focus time every day to kind of check in and be present with each other. And we also noticed, I don't know if any of you have experienced this, that we have these little devices in our pockets that keep wanting to steal our attention in various ways. And so we actually got this product that lets us basically shut these things down, and like we are not able to interact with them until we tap them back in. And that has also helped a little bit. But we have tried to be intentional in the fostering of attention and a space for that attention to exist, so we can relate to each other more and be more present.
Yeah. Okay, precept number 2, sometimes phrased as, do not take what is not given, but respect the things of others. So I think this is an interesting one, which sometimes the shorthand understanding is sort of the surface level understanding, of course, is the pretty obvious don't steal. And maybe we look at that and say, well, I don't steal things, so I'm good. When we look a little bit deeper at this one, we really see that it's asking us some questions around sort of what is mine, what is not mine, what is my experience of lacking something that I find myself continually grasping after. So I think some pitfalls in relationship when working with this precept are things like stealing our partner's goodwill, which I am very guilty of oftentimes. Expecting endless flexibility for our faults and foibles as the person who knows us best, the place where it might be safe to unravel at the end of the day for our partner while we have been keeping things sort of composed the rest of the time, and not recognizing maybe the impact that we have when that's the case. I think when we are tuning into this precept, it is about nurturing our innate contentment, cultivating stability as a gift for your partner. Anything you wanted to say about that one?
The thing I thought about most with this is actually time. And I know we have a lot of very thoughtful people in this room, but statistically, men put in a lot less effort towards a household than women do. I don't know what several hours a week more I've read. So in our household, we try to have a division of labor that is fair and equitable. I do the laundry.
Actually, I think you do more chores than I do.
Yeah. I do the dishes. I manage our bill paying and household accounts, get the taxes ready.
It's a long list. You're usually at home doing the laundry while I'm here on Sunday. So if you guys like seeing me here, it is because Jagak is at home doing the laundry. Thank you.
We both sort of share the bathroom cleaning duties.
Yes.
Jagwa is the one who really keeps up after the salt crystals that like to come inside the vacuum cleaner.
I'm on the vacuum.
You do more dusting, and you do the cooking every night.
Yeah.
And so that's how we divided it up. And I think if you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we try to divide it up 60-40, but we're both trying to do the 60.
Yeah. Was there anything else you wanted to say about
No.
that one? Okay. Okay, number 3. This precept is phrased in a lot of different ways. In a monastic setting, this would be about if you've taken a vow of celibacy, not having sex. For a lay community like ours, this is about not misusing our sexuality. And the wording that we actually use in the precept class is we include a little bit more kind of nuance, which is engaging with our sexuality in the spirit of reciprocity and respect. So I think this precept is asking us to think about respecting human desire and passion as a vital life force, one that can both cause harm and that can reveal our deepest beliefs about ourselves. Can I be naked-hearted? Can I give and receive love and pleasure? Can I accept myself? Pitfalls in a relationship working with this precept, I think, can be things like, are we having sex with our partner as they are in this moment, or as we are projecting some vision of them, what we want them to be for us? Asking ourselves always the questions, what are we taking and what are we giving in this encounter? I think when we are practicing in alignment with this precept, it is in the spirit of fresh in this moment, a creative act, recognition of our partner's always changing body and mind, not seeking an outcome of only self-gratification to feel desired or secure. Do you want to add anything about that?
Attention.
Yeah, you're good on that one. Okay, fair enough. And then the 4th precept is often phrased as not to lie, but to speak the truth. And I think this precept is asking us the question, how do we honor truth and how do we deceive ourselves and others? This is a very rich one, I think, in relationship. Pitfalls might be things like not nurturing the relationship as a being that thrives on truth. Well-timed truth is important. So, for example, turning away from a recurring difficulty of our relating instead of compassionately looking at it, talking about it. And when we are practicing in alignment with this precept, I wrote here, little truths support big truths. I think when we build trust in our ability to discuss the truth of our reality, the truth of what we see in our relationship with our partner, just building that little bit of a muscle really helps when things get more challenging and there's a bigger problem to solve together. There's a foundation that we can figure it out together. Did you want to say anything?
Yeah, I guess part of that is, learning to be open to constructive feedback and not, and sort of being aware of one's own armor and defensive patterns, as well as, how you're communicating things with your partner.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that I was thinking about as we were preparing this and sort of taking all of these together is that, I don't want to get into the whole Noble Eightfold Path and give you that whole long list, but Buddhism is full of lots of great numbered lists.
Mm-hmm.
But, similar to the precepts, there's a real emphasis on ethical training, having the right view, the right intention, the right livelihood, and sort of preparing this nest for your practice to grow in. And it's not until you get to the very end of the Noble Eightfold Path that you get the right mindfulness and right concentration, the meditation part of it. And I think the same can be said for being in relationship. And it's really building that nest, that ethical nest, where you don't have a lot of animosity or drama or chaos or uncertainty, and you're sort of building that stability then that your spiritual practice or individual growth and your growth together can sort of, it can serve as a container for that. But if you're having a very tumultuous relationship, it can be very hard to sort of then grow in a spiritual way or grow in an individual way, or as individuals together.
Mm.
So I saw a parallel between that and sort of the sort of bigger project of some of the Buddhist training.
Thank you. Okay, so those are the examples, and now we invite questions about this topic. Yes.
I find it interesting how you started off with the division of self versus other in a relationship, especially at 60 years long.
Uh-huh.
And I find it like with the people that you're so closest to, people like your mother who are kind of a part of you, find yourself being, or I can find myself being ways that I wish I wasn't, and ways that I'm not with other people that I see as truly other than myself. And I feel like it reflects on my own treatment of my actual self and how I see. Like sometimes I can be quick and rash or I don't know, these negative qualities to myself, and I find it reflecting on the people that are so closest to me because I see them as kind of an extension. So treating people that you see as an extension of yourself in that same kind of way that the little truths can kind of strengthen your capacity to sustain big truths. Treating others that are like an extension of yourself with kindness and grace, and treating yourself with kindness and grace, it's reciprocal.
Yeah, agreed. Well said. What else?
I think we covered it. I don't think we have to do this next year.
I think there was someone on the side. Oh, there's someone up here. Okay.
Thank you, Jawa, for the talk this morning. I was told that true intimacy is presence. See, my wife knows I'm fully present in her life. And being present, the foundation of all relationships is trust. And I was able to build upon that through my practice. My Buddhist monk told me, he said, young child, master your thoughts, master your words, and master your body. He said, in all things, learn to become the master of what you say, do, think, and feel in every moment. He said, young child, you're your only master. Who else could it be? Now, I do the dishes. I pay the bills. I keep the maintenance of the cars, because those are my strengths. And I play towards her strengths. She's good at the electronic stuff, man. I get real frustrated. But she handles all that. She plans all the vacations for us and all like that, But every morning, I wake up with pure joy. And when I roll over and see that she's there with me, my joy increases. See? And that's what happens when I live this kind of life. It's based on true intimacy. And it don't mean they have to be physically present. They could be spiritually present. See, knowing that they're there and they care for you. So yeah, thank you for the talk.
Thank you.
And I do the dishes.
Thank you, Jagwa and Jagak, and Young Chao, as always. I felt really connected to what Jagak had said about attention and intention, especially related to time. I think it's very easy to kind of make decisions about what merits time, either in giving to myself or giving to someone else. I know for me, it's often taking time away from myself to give to someone else, or choosing between two people and thinking about, well, who needs my help more right now? And so I think there's a lot to be said for how we use our time and what it, what it says about our priorities and how we prioritize others or ourselves. I know for me, I'm often taking away time from me that I really need for my own self-care to give to other people. So I feel like that's kind of a balance. The other thing that kind of came to mind was when we were talking about the precepts is just kind of the concept of there being no rush, but no delay. In terms of kind of its own koan of, we can get stuck in the minutia of the day to day where we delay so much we get stuck, but also we can leap to action too quickly. So kind of finding that middle path. So thank you both.
Thank you.
Attention, those of you who are 12-steppers as well, been involved in 12-step programs. And there's this, it's not quite a joke that we talk about. Once we get through the 12 steps, or we think we do, there's a 13th step. That is like seeking a relationship. But it's usually not based on reality necessarily. It's quite often based in dysfunction. So there is a true 13th step. I would like to think I work a 16-step program, putting the 4 agreements on top of the 12 steps. That 13th step would be impeccable with your word. So, as it applies to the second that you spoke of, would you like to speak more to that? I mean, and how to resolve times when you're not impeccable with your word. I realize you probably are all the time after 6 years. You're always impeccable. Or 16 years, excuse me. 6 is a long time in my imagination, but wow.
So you're talking about the precept of using speech wisely, essentially. Yeah.
I'm sorry, can I add to that just a little bit?
Yeah.
And how you might involve the community in mediation, or how others might involve the Sangha in mediation type arrangements.
Interesting. I think that we say so many things in a given day as human beings that we can never always be impeccable with our word. We're always going to say something that hurts somebody, sometimes unintentionally, sometimes because we, are just reacting out of an old habit pattern. Something got triggered in us. And I think I was talking to a friend of mine the other day who's a Buddhist chaplain out in North Carolina, and he said, we're always breaking precepts. We can't point to someone else and say, well, they broke precepts, but I didn't, sort of like breaking a precept. So the concept of the precepts has within it repentance and renewal. There are formal practices around this. And in fact, we recently, one of our other teachers, Mo Samsam, has introduced a monthly ceremony called the Upasata Day. It's sort of a forgiveness and reconciliation kind of ritual, where if we have caused some harm to ourselves or others, we can really look kind of carefully and clearly at that to understand it and then make amends, if possible. So there's some formal practices, but that cycle of, we try to practice mindfulness. We're human. We're going to make mistakes and cause harm. We try to look at the harm that we've caused in a clear and careful way to be honest about what was driving that. We try to do some repentance, forgiving ourselves, forgiving others. It's a little bit of this circle. So in relationships, I think it kind of goes back a bit to what I said about not squandering your partner's goodwill, particularly if you've made vows to each other in the form of some type of long-term relationship. You could really lean on the fact that, well, you're stuck with me, so deal with it. You know, that would be sort of squandering our partner's goodwill. So I think that sense of bringing carefulness and appreciation and gentleness to when we've made a mistake would be a way to make amends if we've said something that hurts people. Yeah, please. And he'll keep me honest because he knows all the times when I do this.
Well, I think the first time we gave this talk, the theme was how to fight like a Buddhist. And maybe that's one we should revisit in the future. But there are certain things that I think I've found helpful when being in a relationship. You know, we do argue sometimes, but when we argue, I don't think either of us takes an orientation of like trying to score points. You know, we both know where each other's vulnerabilities are and weak points, and we don't just, you know, we're not. This is not, you know, attack to win. You know, scorched earth. You know, score points. And I think that, you know, there's the language that one can use when you are arguing can make a big difference. There's a writer, S.I. Hayakawa, who was writing about, they call it general semantics, which is a weird name for it. But one of the things he points out is, you know, using phrases like "you always" or "you never" or "I always," you know, I never do that. That kind of thing. Those kind of sort of big generalizations can dig you a deep hole very, very quickly. And so trying to really be aware and present in the moment and really working through whatever the specific issue is without pulling in, well, but wait, last year you did blah, blah, or whatever it is, and kind of being very intentional and paying attention when you are having some kind of conflict can go a long way. I don't know if you have any other tips about how to fight like a Buddhist.
All right,
What do you got here?
Mike. I think if we really have our wits about us in the midst of an argument, one of the things that I really like is if the other, if you have your wits about you, you can do this, which sometimes you need your partner to do it. And that's to hold hands. If you're having an argument and then it kind of reaches maybe like a beat and you're like, okay, you're kind of taking a breath. You're like, all right, let me maybe like just reflect a little bit before I say more things. If you take the other person's hand, it really changes the whole tenor of the interaction. It's really hard to fight with someone when you're holding hands with them. And I think it's like that sense of embodiment is something that we've really emphasized a lot in, especially in the Zen form of Buddhist practice, because when we're in our bodies and we are actually kind of more integrated and more centered, it's a lot easier to speak from a place of integrity. Yeah. There's also just a little more nervous system regulation, I think. Sometimes we do that.
Yeah, I was reminded when you were saying that of the sort of famous quote from the Dalai Lama. I was talking about China. It says, "My friends, the enemy. You know, my love, the enemy." Holding hands and sort of working through whatever. You know, but in the midst, even when you're really angry, sort of being able to tap into that love and that base that you have together.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question, but I'm going to provide some context first. I've talked several times, for those of you who have been here and heard me, about just trying to learn who I am through relationships. And I'm really grateful for this talk today. Because I went through a really challenging one several years ago. It lasted for a long time. And the way that it ended was very abrupt and destabilizing, to say the very least. And I found myself really scared to even try. And then when I do try, it's like one thing will happen and I'm like, well, I have to protect my peace, and I've learned a lot about myself in this, these last couple of years, one of which is, you spoke of the autonomy of the individuals and then the unit. I certainly looked for my self-worth and my partner, and that's partly why it was so destabilizing. And so I realized my own worth, and that seems like it should be obvious and normal, but even to an educated person, it isn't that easy. So now, however, like I realize that I'm finding it more and more difficult to even connect to anyone really who doesn't have some sort of spiritual center. And what is the likelihood of anything working? What is why try? I mean, I'm qualifying because I don't want to sound a certain way, but I found it really hard to even go there, if you will, with someone who doesn't understand the way. And so when I do, for example, find myself in flow, and we are human and we do make mistakes, and there is this genuine apology or this, I realize my pattern, here's how I feel, period, let's work together. And, there is a greater good, all these things. Like, for example, a person who may be an atheist or agnostic, like I just can't connect. Like, is it worth it? Is that futile? Will I always feel alone? What, I mean, genuinely, I'm asking, like, is that crazy to even pursue if that piece is always missing?
Thank you for the question. Yeah. I think what I hear in your question is the sense of yearning. Yeah. And also a recognition that you've really come to carefully know your own values, and you have now kind of perhaps a greater expectation of reciprocity of those values in a relationship. And sometimes meeting someone who shares our values is really hard. Yeah. So I don't know if you will meet that person, but it sounds like, in terms of an answer for your question, the yearning is sort of your answer right now. You have a desire to go in the world, like, will I meet this person? That's the question. And sometimes we don't know what the answer is, but the question is pointing us toward what is true for us. Maybe when that question stops being interesting to you, then it will be a different answer. Yeah. You're welcome. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Do you want to add something to that? Please. Yeah.
So sometimes there's folks in the lay community, just everybody out and about, who, until you've studied Buddhism, you might not have the words for it, but the values might be there, or some of the values, the most important values might be there. So it's sometimes kind of sneaky, right? Where someone might not be spiritual, but they might have a very strong like a moral ground, and they just might talk about it differently. And so I find sometimes if I'm listening to music that I'm like, oh my gosh, this, hardcore punk artist is like, this is totally Buddhist. So but I don't remember that from when I was whenever and listening to it, but it's like, it can really kind of creep up on you. So don't give up hope. It might be sneaky, but something's there.
I just also wanted to add that perhaps you could be the spark. As she said, I think those things are innate in all of us, and some people never get there. But some people oftentimes do through a spark or a guide or a teacher, and you could be that person.
Yeah,
I was just going to say real quickly, sometimes we don't know when we met the right person.
that's right.
Yeah.
Did everybody hear that? Sometimes we don't know when we've met the right person. I think that's really true.
So I find that when I'm not in a relationship, which is usually I'm reaching out into the community, into the Sangha, into the community to get my needs met, which are in part intimacy. And that, that helps deal with the second precept in this tradition, first of all. And it keeps me on task, on track of the objectives that I believe are most appropriate. And in a functional community, I believe, whether it be the village or the intentional community or having stability within a community, we have the opportunity to get those needs met in the familiarity. And then just naturally relationships happen or not.
Jaguar, I don't know how to pronounce your husband's name,
Jagat.
but I can definitely identify with him. The most special time for me is when my wife and I eating dinner together. And after dinner, we watching a movie and we hold hands. That's special. That's true romantic intimacy. I'm in my 70s. So that's some special stuff to me. So I just thought I'd just acknowledge that for you, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, you want to say something?
Yeah, the thing that I would add to this, I don't know about any of you, but I'm not the same person I was 15, 16 years ago.
Yeah.
Jog was not the same person she was when we started dating.
I didn't.
She
have
wasn't a
this
Zen
outfit then
teacher.
either.
We both weren't, actively involved in a Buddhist community when we met.
That's right.
And so, one of the things, I think you touched on this earlier, but we're both always growing and changing and evolving over time, and sometimes evolving in the same direction, sometimes evolving in different directions. I used to be a lot more present in the temple. I did some of the training programs. I was involved in different things, and ultimately decided somebody's got to be home doing the laundry. We got to have, you have to figure out, different, what's important to us and how best to invest our time and energies. And that will grow and change over time. And so just keeping in perspective that things are not necessarily fixed in whatever moment you find yourself in.
Okay. One last comment, and then last word from you.
Thank you for the talk and for everyone who shared. I've gotten a lot of strength out of everyone speaking and sharing and being vulnerable. And I'll try to articulate something that I feel is really important for me right now to recognize and might help someone else too. I hope so. And that is that to speak to this yearning of connection and to also be considering what was first shared about this treating others as a reflection and extension of ourselves. I am happily married for 2 years and some change, and it's been a big 2 years. There's been a lot of change in our family and within, and I still really struggle with vulnerability and intimacy with my partner. But it helps me so much. So often I think something's wrong with me, that I like innately, I can't do that. And I have glimpses of being able to do it, and I'm getting better. But something that really helps me reassure myself, what I believe is a truth, is that I do have that capacity and innate ability to share that with someone. And more so, I want to. And that I see that show up in the relationship with my kids so easily. And when I turn inward, when I struggle with being intimate, I realize there's a big part within that relationship within myself that is really missing. That needs to happen first. I believe it's sometimes very weak, and so to be able to extend that to someone when I'm not able to give it, I want it so badly. But I do. Another truth I think I know is it's not my time for that right now. And that hurts to accept that or to consider that and then look inward. And when I do, I realize how true that is, because it's really hard to be really intimate with myself. I really am great at making lists and schedules, and so that's a testament to, when I make time is a huge thing I'm taking away today too. It's so paramount to building and noticing, and making time with my husband on Friday before Valentine's Day for us to just see each other is such a small thing. We had to make a date to meet up for an hour somewhere. And it has such a huge impact to just make time, to just make an hour, to make 5 minutes, to make 3 minutes, to just listen and be still. So yeah, thank you for letting me speak to that too.
Thank you. Yeah, I think what I hear in your comment is a sense of that mirror that our relationships are often holding up for us, and the ways that it invites those questions of our own self-understanding, our own capacity, and the ways that we can maybe find an edge of difficulty or friction that's asking us for a deeper look. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We've run a little bit over time. I feel like we're just getting warmed up. So you might have to come back next year. In fact, we'll take requests on topics. I feel like this is always a really rich one once we kind of start getting going a little bit, because it's such just a very rich field of many, many topics of human experience. So appreciate everyone's contributions and questions. That's probably good enough for today. So bows to you. And do we have some announcements, Simone?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yeah, I did notice lots of new people today. It's great to see you all come out. Okay. Thank you, guys. That was great. And everyone, yeah, a lot of great comments. Thank you for joining us today. We always look forward to seeing you. Public services are offered every Sunday at 10 a.m. Families are always welcome, especially on the second Sunday of every month when we have a Dharma talk geared to children. Our next family service is March 8th. Please join us for Together Action every Saturday from 3 to 5. The work practice and community building event is aimed at helping us maintain our temple grounds and buildings. We consider hands-on work a vital aspect of our Buddhist practice. As we care for the temple, we care for ourselves. Precept classes will begin soon. Our 7-class offering includes deep study and discussion of key Buddhist ethical guidelines. At the conclusion of the series, you'll have the opportunity to partake in a precept taking ceremony where you will receive meditation beads, a precept certificate, and a Buddhist name. If you want to know more, please join us right after tea this morning and here for an
In this room. Yeah.
informational service. Please join us for a special Dharma talk by Barbara Brodsky during our morning service on February 22nd. It's next week. Barbara Brodsky is the founder and guiding teacher of the Deep Spring Center for Meditation and Spiritual Inquiry in Ann Arbor. She's known for her deep understanding of Dharma, her art, and her activism. The topic of her talk and discussion will be dealing with heavy emotions and troubled times. This year, we'll be offering special opportunities for every Sunday after morning service to reconnect and build pathways of relationship. Join us in person or online as your time permits. Ask a Buddhist, first Sunday at noon to 1 p.m. Do you have questions about Buddhist teachings, or are you looking for direction on what to read next? Join Dharma teachers in a Q&A session about any topic of interest to you. Family service, second Sunday, 9:45 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Family service again. Enjoy Jataka tales and other Buddhist stories for kids of all ages. There's also a Upasatha service, which we were talking about, third Sunday from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m., 3:30. Engage in meaningful conversations about the unfolding of Buddhist precepts in everyday life. This service is led by Masam Sam Lisa Inoue. Sangha Tea, fourth Sunday at noon to 1. Meet informally with advisory council members and teachers to reflect on the morning service Dharma talk, learn about the temple mission and programs, and share ideas about what's next. Our ongoing classes continue. Yoga with David Black meets every Tuesday from 6:30 to 8 p.m. Beginning and experienced students in the classes learn traditional yoga postures, hatha yoga, with an emphasis on relaxation, concentration, and working with the breath. Qigong with Samatha Cyrus Scholl will resume on February 16th, which is this week. This class meets every Monday for evening from 6:30 to 8 p.m. The temple offers meditation classes on a regular basis. The course includes simple stretching exercises, work with the breath, meditation postures, concentration, and mindfulness practice. Everything you need to know about your home to support your own home practice. Our 5-week version offers 2 hours of instruction per week from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. on Thursday evenings. The next class will begin on March 19th. We also offer the same instruction in a condensed overnight format from Friday evening at 7 p.m. through noon on Saturday. This version includes an overnight stay and breakfast at the temple. Our next overnight meditation class is March 27th and 28th. We have an evening sitting for the Sangha every Wednesday evening from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. All Sangha members are encouraged to come to temple and practice midweek. We also hold an early morning sitting for members each Sunday from 6:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. with breakfast included. The temple currently has vacancies in our residential visitors program. This visitors program is for people who want to spend some time living in a Buddhist community. They follow the daily schedule and participate in programs such as retreats, study groups, public services, and yoga classes as their schedules permit. One can seriously pursue one's spiritual path or simply seek peace and harmony in a wholesome environment. Our online Sangha meets every Sunday night from 8 to 9:30 p.m. This service joins with practitioners from our temples in Toronto, Ann Arbor, and New York, as well as those living at a distance. The Zoom link is located on our website. And I have one special announcement. I noticed that Iljan just left, but he's leading the Recovery Dharma program next door at noon in the Temple Library. If you're not familiar with the location, it's up the steps in the house next door and in through that front door. So for details about any of these classes, please talk to one of our Dharma teachers who are wearing the gray, and sign-up sheets are in the lobby. Were there any other announcements anyone had? Oh, great. Yeah, the donation bowl. I didn't get to that. You probably saw it. It's like a fish bowl, and it's out here around the door. And you can leave a donation of financial contribution, which is similar, of course, to activities such as Together Actions on Saturday from 3 to 5. And so you probably know that then the temple's entirely supported by your generous donations. And there's also a PayPal with a QR code if you want, and an electronic credit card device. So great, thanks. That's all. Man, we had a lot to deliver.
That was a lot.
And glad we got to it.
Thanks, Samoon. Yeah, so for folks who are interested in learning more about the precept taking process, we'll meet in this room, let's say at noon. So that's in about 10 minutes. It'll give you some time to have some tea and use the bathroom if you need to. So let's end with the 4 great vows. Please repeat after me. All beings, one body.
All beings, one body.
I vow to liberate.
I vow to liberate.
Blind passions, one root.
Blind passions, one root.
I vow to terminate.
I vow to terminate.
Dharma gates, one mind.
Dharma gates, one mind.
I vow to penetrate.
I vow to penetrate.
The great way of Buddha.
The great way of Buddha.
I vow to realize.
I vow to realize.
And then Ma'um, would you like the room to be put away? So mats and cushions touching the red carpet can stay as they are. The second 2 rows of mats and cushions on this side of the room, please neatly stack the mats in the back corner and the round cushions on the red cubbies. And then on this side, the 3rd row goes on the stage. So thank you for your assistance. So we'll end with 3 bows, and then you can do mats and cushions, and we'll process out of the hall.